Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, welcome back everyone to the Nikaya study. So today is lesson part 12 and Nikaya number 5 sutta, second part. So in previous class we had done the first parts of Nikaya number 5, Kuddadanda Sutta. This is about the bloodless sacrifice. So at the beginning, in the Brahmin Kuddadanda, he had an idea to make the sacrifice, but that sacrifice is bloody sacrifice, not bloodless. Fortunately, before he made the sacrifice, the Buddha visited to his place, and he approached to the Buddha, and he liked to make more fruitful and beneficial sacrifice other than he understand. He also already heard about that the Buddha know that a beneficial and fruitful sacrifice, and he asked. Then the Buddha explained the Kuddadanda and the audience about the King Mahavijita's sacrifice, which has done in the past. So there, it already mentioned some protection or some requisites for the sacrifice, great sacrifice. Then today we will continue to the second part of the explanation. So there, before that, we have already learned about the Buddha's explanation for the bloodless sacrifice, the 4 requisites of 4 follower group, and the 8 qualities of the king, and 4 qualities of the chaplain Brahmin. After that, the 3 reminding not to lead to the remorse or regret. Then, and how to keep the attitude when the donor encounter, when they're in the story, the king encounter the different class of recipients. So by the instruction of the chaplain Brahmin, the King Mahavijita provided his sacrifice. Then now in the Pali Canon, the Buddha explained all 16 reasons of the great sacrifice. So these are just repetition. The first thing is talking about the 4 group of the attendants or the followers of the king. So if the sacrifice is really provided and really performed, some people might say, it means from different direction, the people can criticize or blame. It is possible, although the king is doing great sacrifice, we cannot expect everybody will follow and everybody will appreciate, because this is the human nature. No matter how you do, still you can have the opposite people from the opposite view. That's why we have to make sure by following these kind of opposite viewpoint, of this opposite standpoint, and we should not lead our mind to the regret or disappointed. Then, so the chaplain Brahmin, he already reminded about this 16 reason, because before that he already explained these 16 reasons, but now he need to confirm. Okay, so when the sacrifice is really performed, some still might say, okay, Mahavijita is making great sacrifice, but he didn't inform to the Khattiya. Khattiya is the follower kings, regional kings from the town and countryside. And in this way, they can criticize. Or sometimes some people were criticized, or he didn't inform the advisor or counselor in the countryside and the town, or the most influential Brahmin or the wealthy householder. In this way, they can criticize, but because king already informed or invited the Khattiya and advisor Brahmin and wealthy householder already. So that is why this kind of wars, so ill wars, will not be in accordance with the true or the Dhamma. So in this case, we can learn even if we are doing in the proper way, we are performing the proper way, still some people giving their different viewpoint of they can criticize. But we have to check in that case, what they are talking is in accordance with Dhamma or not. If their criticize is not in accordance with Dhamma, not come through the proper Dhamma, so we don't need to pay attention. Just let him do his own job, his own business. It's not our business, so we don't need to be disappointed or regret. Here the Brahmin already remind the king, even though you already invited four class of people, but still some may criticize. But because this is this kind of words are not in accordance with Dhamma, so you should not be disappointed. Then, because you already know what you had done, what you had invited to them, that's why you just need to pay attention. The words come through the Dhamma, come with the Dhamma, and you did what you had to do in accordance with Dhamma. That's why the sacrifice will be successful. And for that case, you can rejoice. Their word, you should not let their word to destroy your sacrifice. This is the Brahmin's advice or instruction to protect the king's mind. Then number 5 to 12, so about the king's quality. So some could say that King Mahavijita, although he is trying to make the great sacrifice, but he's not a well-born person or like this, in relation to 6 qualities of King Mahavijita, still some people will talk something wrong. But because their why is not correct, you already know you have 8 qualities. So the Brahmin remind the King Mahavijita, you are already well born, so you should not pay attention to this kind of vow, not come in accordance with Dhamma. Do what you have to do and make sure your sacrifice is successful and rejoice about that. And your heart will be calm inside because the king already know what he had done and what kind of quality he already has. So in this way, he repeat the criticism may come through 8 qualities of the king. Then, and here is continue up to 12. These 5 to 12 are related to the qualities of King Mahavijita. Then, still it is possible about the chaplain Brahmin. So some may say that although the king is trying to provide the great sacrifice, it will not be completed because his chaplain Brahmin is not well born or not scholar in mantra or not virtuous or not learned in the sacrificial text. But both of them, the Brahmin and the chaplain Brahmin and the king already know about the qualification of the chaplain Brahmin. That's why they should not pay attention. They should not be disappointed about the qualities of Brahmin and still can rejoice. So in this case, we can learn before we do something good or before we perform the wholesome deed, we have to make sure what are the necessities to be accomplished or to collect. After fulfillment, we just need to mind our own business in performing wholesome deeds, merits. We don't need to pay attention to the other people criticize because we know ourselves how we are doing well. So this is the 16th reason that the king should not let the other people's war to destroy his rejoice inside. So after that, the 4 ascending group. So the 4 ascending group, we already know that these counted as the Khattiya and the advisor and influencer Brahmin and householders. So these are 4 groups. Then the 8 qualities of Mahavijita and 4 qualities of Brahmin and 3 moods. Altogether, 16 reasons and 3 moods. So this is how the chaplain Brahmin instructs to the King Mahavijita the great sacrifice, about the great sacrifice. So now we already know the answer of the Kudatana's question. Then the Buddha is sorry. So the Buddha continue explanation about the great sacrifice. So under the instruction of the chaplain Brahmin, the King Mahavijita provide the great sacrifice. Here, in this sacrifice, there no bull on no goat, etc. No animals are subject to be slaughtered. No animal are killed. And also, no tree cut down for sacrificial posts. So in the Kudadanda's sacrifice, initially he already provide the sacrificial pose to mention about the name who make the sacrifice, to mention about the donor. But here, under the instruction of chaplain Brahmin, this is different. The great sacrifice does not mention about who is making this donation, this sacrifice, not necessary. Then also, no grass or not destroying anything. This is a code for the decoration, outside. So this also not necessary for the great sacrifice under the wise man's instruction. So this is the hallmarks of the great sacrifice, different from normally the Brahmins are doing. Then also, unlike the other sacrificial ceremony, under the instruction of chaplain Brahmin, the slave, servants, and workmen, they didn't need to perform their tasks with fear or threats or weeping, and not necessary to be afraid of somebody is forcing them, because they just do what they want to do. It means the participants or the people are voluntarily or willingly, happily giving their service. So this is also the hallmarks of the great sacrifice. If we perform the great large ceremony with a large number of participants, we need to do a lot, and then supervisor and manager, they have to force the people to do what they have to do. But here, under the guidance of the chaplain Brahmin, the wise man, and they can arrange properly without threatening to the workers and servants. And due to that, they also happy to give their service to participate in the great sacrifice. Then, so in this great sacrifice, the items of donations are geese, oil, butter, curd, honey, and molasses. So there's no killing, and just these offerings are provided to offer. These are special offerings. Then it's mentioned that in the morning, the king provides the food for the visitor, for the participants. And in the evening, he provides the dressings or the flowers or incense like this. So whatever the donation item are provided properly, peacefully. So this is the hallmark of great sacrifice. This is not the same as the Brahmin Kudadanda has provided to make the sacrifice. Then when the king is really perform his great sacrifice, the ascending group of Khadiyas, minister, Brahmin, and householder, they also like to participate the king's sacrifice as a supporting group, and they consult, or we should also go and participate because our king is doing this kind of great sacrifice. Then they collect the property, they collect the wealth and gifts, then came to the Mahavijita and they present to the king. We already bring this kind of wealth and gifts for your sacrifice to be a part of your sacrifice, and please accept it. This is not by force. They willingly trying to participate. Then the king also said, although the four ascending group who present the wealth and gifts to the the king already say, oh, I already provide enough wealth and gifts, enough items of donation. I already have the proper way of wealth collected by the proper way. I have enough. Even you can take if you want. So you also can be the recipients. I will donate to you as well. So the king refused their present, their wealth and gifts. So when the king refused, the four ascending groups, they consult again. So what we have to do, we already collect these wealth and gifts for the king's sacrifice. Now king is rejecting our offer. But if we take this wealth back to our home, this is not proper way, because these items are already intended to the king's sacrifice to be a part of it. So let's follow his example. So because the king is making the great sacrifice, they also taking the king's example and they also provide the surrounding sacrifice pavilion of sacrifice. Then the same thing, they follow to the king's example. Then the Katia taken in the east like this. So in four directions, east, south, west, and north, surrounding to the king's sacrificial pavilion. And they also provide their sacrifice place, sacrificial house. And in this way, because the leader, the king, is making sacrifice without killing, they also not kill. They also didn't kill any living being. Also, didn't force the people, their servants, also not much decorating and not mentioned to, to be proud of being a donor. But they humbly and simply participate the king's sacrifice, taking the king's example. So now we can see the influence of the king, the leaders, to the follower. When the leader is performing properly, the followers easy to be in the order. So they just trying to use the geese, oil, etc. Okay, so then at that time, when the Buddha mentioned about the great sacrifice which has done in the past under the instruction of Chaplain Brahmin, the Kim Hauchida done. So the Brahmin or the audience, they start to rejoice and applaud. Oh, what a splendid sacrifice! What a wonderful sacrifice! How the Brahmin chaplain can instruct this kind, they appreciate and make the noisy. But for the Guddadanda, he kept silent, just sitting there. And then in that case, the Brahmin complained, why? Although the ascetic Gautama is talking in the wonderful sacrifice and the splendid way of the sacrifice, what is the reason you cannot rejoice, you cannot applaud? What's wrong with you? And the Brahmins complained to the Guddadanda. At that time, what the Guddadanda say is, oh no, I don't mean I cannot rejoice or I cannot applaud to that kinds of sacrifice. And if I don't do that, and then my head was split open if I did not do that. So it's just, actually, this is the traditionally or the custom way of explanation. If somebody is talking in the proper way and making things, really it should be done. And if that person speak against and keeping silence or ignoring, so it will be said in this way, oh, if I don't do that, and my head will split. Actually, it will not really happen, even if he has this kind, because we already know sometimes, some people against to the Buddha's explanation also didn't happen this kind really. So maybe some by taking this expression of Buddha seriously, one may think, oh, the Buddha used this kind of the supernatural power or something like this. It's not really that. Then, so what happened is the Brahmin Kudaranda was in the thinking or something and occupy his mind. So when he carefully paid attention to the Buddha's word, the Buddha didn't say, I have heard of this, or about this sacrifice or this story, or it must have been like this, or referring to the something imagination. He didn't say. The Buddha didn't say. That's why being aware of that, he has that thought. So the ascetic Gautama was say is it was like this, definitely explained, or like that at a time, as I mentioned about the detailed expression of the events of the great sacrifice, which is done by the king Hawijita. So it seemed to me that, the Kudaranda was thinking the ascetic Gautama must have been at a time either the king Hawijita or the chaplain Brahmin. So he must have been at the time one of them, one of the king or Brahmin. He already experienced by his own end, and now he is retelling us. He feel that. That's the reason I could not join. You guys are applauding or doing something rejoice, because I was in the serious thinking, serious thought. Then he asked to the Buddha about his doubt. Then, so at the time, the Reverend Gautama, according to your way of explanation, you must one of them, the king or the chaplain Brahmin. So by performing that great sacrifice, the bloodless great sacrifice, so in consequence, after having done this great sacrifice, you were born to the good sphere or heavenly state. He asked the question because he already knows. He accepted that is really a wonderful sacrifice that can bring as a consequence the great destination after life. So he asked the question. Then the Buddha acknowledged, the Buddha admitted, yeah, I do Brahmin. So I was Brahmin chaplain. So we understand this is the Brahmin chaplain was Bodhisattva. So before he was born as the Prince Siddhartha, in many lives, among the countless lives, this is one of the lives he had provided the great sacrifice with the Kimha Vijita. So this is what the Buddha admitted about his experience or participation in the great sacrifice, what he had explained to the Brahmin and the audience. So after learning that, the Brahmin Kudaranda still have a question. So he know the ascetic Gautama was the Brahmin chaplain, and he has provided by his own experience, and he explained this is wonderful. But still, I'd like to know, is there any simpler and less things to do, but more fruitful and profitable sacrifice than this kind he has done the three moods and the 16 reason or 16 attributes. The Brahmin Kudarana is very smart. He's a smart person. So yeah, that is wonderful. But if there is something better than that, I like to know, and his attitude and his way of thinking. That's why he asked much simpler and less difficult, but more fruitful and profitable. So now also, later investment and they get the more profit. This is a good question. Then the Buddha's answer is there is. So if you know, you can do. If you don't know, and you cannot. So the Buddha to answer the question of the Brahmin Kudarana, the Buddha mentioned the gifts, the family gift, which is done regularly. So in daily life, we can do something good in regular routine. That kind of family gifts given to the virtuous ascetics is the better donation or better sacrifice, because it's simpler and less difficult, but more fruitful and profitable. It's more beneficial. That's why this is the better one we can understand. So the Buddha gradually mentioned, and the Brahmin also keep asking the question about the better one, better sacrifice. So at the beginning, referring to the King Mahavijita's great sacrifice, he has learned, this is really wonderful sacrifice. But if there is something better than that great sacrifice, I like to know. Then he asked, and the Buddha mentioned, the regular family gifts, which is given to the virtuous ascetics. So these ascetics include, not only bhikkhu, not only the member of the Buddha Sasana, whoever, the virtuous one can be the recipients of this kind. So this is a simpler, less difficult, because regular offering, maybe some food or clothes or something, which is regularly offered to the virtuous person. Then in this case, the Brahmin Kudarana has doubt why it becomes better. It considers as better because this is simpler, very simple compared to the great sacrifice. For the great sacrifice, you need to provide a lot of things, and also need to spend a lot of money. But here, the regular family gifts, very simple and very easy to do, and why is considered as the better one. And the reason mentioned by the Buddha is, so for the great sacrifice, there's no arhat or those who have attained the arhat path. I mean, we can roughly understand that a great noble person like arhat will not approach, will not be recipients, because they, in the nature of arhat, they don't like that kind of ceremony in their nature. Only when they have to care about their donation to be profitable, then they go and accept for themselves, and they don't like to participate. That's why they will not attend such great sacrifice, very busy work and crowded ceremony. And why? So why they don't attend? I mean, they are still, because many things to be done, and beating or throttling, it means some argument or something still can happen. So for the arhat, they don't like to be a part of that kind of sacrifice. But they will attend, they will go and receive the family gift, regular family gift, very simple way they are giving, dedicating to the virtuous ascetics. Of course, the arhat are the great person for the virtuous ascetic to be recipients. So this may, from the side of the recipients, the great recipients and noble person, and this regular family gifts, a donation of regular family gifts become the better one compared to the great sacrifice with the easy walks. So then the Brahmin keep asking, is there anything better than the regular family gifts? So it means better mean less simpler and also less effort but more beneficial. Then second one the Buddha mentioned is providing the shelter or residence for the Sangha. So dedicating to the Sangha, whoever a member of Sangha can come and stay here and dedicating to the Sangha if a person provides the shelter, residence. And this is better sacrifice. Better sacrifice. And then which one is better than the offering and the shelter for the Sangha is with a pure heart, one take refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, taking the refuge in the triple gem of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So in this case, why this taking refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha is better than the offerings, offering the residence for the Sangha. And here, maintaining the residence area for the Sangha has pretty busy. There must be the followers activity to be done for the monastery or for the residence house for the Sangha. But here, taken in the mind as refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha with a pure heart is simpler and less activity, but more beneficial, more fruitful. And so by asking, is there any better one? And Buddha mentioned about the 5 precepts. So here taking this example and taking refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha after that, keeping 5 precepts. So by doing so, we can do together, and the great sacrifice. But here, 5 precepts mentioned as better sacrifice, according to the Brahmin's question, because he's keep asking about the better sacrifice, because here in this question we can see that any other sacrifice. And the 5 precepts in other sutta of Anguttara Nikaya, and the Buddha mentioned that the 5 precepts, given 5 precepts is the supreme sacrifice, supreme dana, supreme sacrifice, because avoiding killing, refrain from taking life, refrain from killing, one can be considered as, oh, I'm giving the life because I don't kill the animal. This is supreme sacrifice, letting the beings live their own life. Then also not taking, not stealing, also safety, giving the others property, the safety and the fearless of the people losing their property. Then sexual immorality, so refrain from the sexual immorality. So giving the people in the community as the fearless sacrifice, because the people can have the confidence, can live without fear of losing their marriage life, because he is not doing something wrong with the immoral action of sexual commitment. Then also the talent line, by referring from talent line, one considers or truthfulness is given to the community, to everybody. Then not taking strong drink. So something can produce the sluggishness in the mind, whatever is not even making the food. We consider this is for intoxication. We should not take that, because this can be the cause of the former for commitment under the influence of drinking, so that the drunk man can do whatever, killing. And these 5 precepts are mentioned as the supreme donation for the safe and fearless condition of the community and individuals around the people, around the person. So this is number 4, better one of sacrifice. Then, so the Brahmins keep asking about the better sacrifice more and more, and finally reach to mention about what we usually learn, what we have learned, in every sutta of Nika Nikaya here. Up to now, we already learned about the appearance of the Tathagata, the Buddha, arising of the Buddha in the world, Arahat Sama Sambuddha, etc. Then he preached Dhamma, having heard from the Buddha's, the teaching, he gets the confidence and faith. Then he joined the order and practice the moral practice, moralities. Starting from that, here the morality is considered as the better sacrifice than the former sacrifice. So one, this can abandon the defilement. So by keeping oneself in the moral practice, he abandoned the defilement in the very strong level of commitment. So by the force of defilement, the people commit the wrongdoing. So if the person practicing the moralities, moral practice, and he can remove very rough level of defilements. After that, keep practicing the concentration and attain the jhana. Also, the 5 mental hindrances are removed. Then, by practicing insight knowledge, the layer of the ignorance are removed gradually. Finally, he attained the cessation of the corruption, which is always considered as the highest point of the knowledge. Then, in this case, this becomes the highest or the greatest sacrifice the man can ever do, in the way of sacrifice by eradicating all kinds of defilements or corruption, asava, in his mind. So the Buddha said there is no more sacrifice in this world, nothing further in this world, and which is simpler and less difficult, but more fruitful and profitable than the corruption, cessation of the corruption, asavakkhaya jnana. We already know this is in this order. Since in the Sutta number 2, Samanyaphala Sutta, it systematically mentioned about the practice of the Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism here. So this is greatest one. That's why there's no sacrifice greater than or more perfect than this kind of asavakkhaya jnana. So finally, the Buddha reached to the highest explanation of their Buddhist way of practice. Then at that time, the Brahmin Kudaranda, he understand and apply it. So excellent, really nice your explanation, and he already understand. Then, as usual, he appreciate the Buddha's teaching. It's just like they are, they are having lamps in the dark place so that the person can see. So after that appreciation, and he invited, that he provided, his sacrifice in the proper way under the guidance of the Buddha's teaching. Then he set free the animal for those are tied up for the sacrificial tax, and he already released them, let them free. Then also, not only releasing, he just keep I granted them their life. Also, he further developed his goodwill to these animals, other than killing. Let them be fed. He cared about their food and also their drink. After that, their condition living in the safe and happy life of the beings. The beings also get the benefits. They were not killed in the sacrificial text. Then, other than that, the Brahmin Kudarana, he developed his metta, his loving kindness toward these beings. So this is a big change. Then the Buddha further gave his Dhamma discourse after explanation about the greater and better sacrifice step by step. Then he'll keep teaching to the Brahmin because he already see the Brahmin has the potency to be enlightened. So he keep talking about the generosity, morality. As about that, this is the graduate teaching we already learned. So in the graduate teaching, the Buddha keep teaching. Then by following the Buddha's graduate teaching, the Kudaranda's mind become clear and free from the five mental hindrances. That is a good condition to be enlightened. At that time, the Buddha mentioned about the Four Noble Truths. So by seeing this kind of repetition, we should pay more attention because this is important and mentioned repeatedly in the Pali text this way. So if we talk about something, somebody requests, and if we explain, we should know, we should learn where we should start about the Dhamma teaching. So the best one is about the generosity, because the generosity make the people's mind gentle and humble. After that, the moral precept having, so these are the cause. The generosity and moral precept, after that, the result is having the life in the heaven. So by learning about these cause and effect relationship, the one can rejoice by the teaching. Then before he has so much attachment to the life in the heaven, and the teacher should let them know, the listener, the danger, although you can have the good life in the heaven afterlife, this is not permanent and not stable enough to enjoy. Then also this is dangerous. And on the other hand, if you overjoys about the luxurious life, and you will forget to perform the wholesome deed, at the end, you can be reborn in the awful state, etc. Then finally explain about the corruption and the danger of the sense desire. After that, it leads to the profit of renunciation. It is better to make your mind to renounce from the sensual desire, something like this, something to be attached. Better to renounce than attachment. So in that case, the listener's mind become free from mental hindrances, then joyful and calm. This is the necessary condition when one listen the essence teaching, the essence of the teaching for Noble Truth. So if we don't have this kind of preliminary condition, although we listen several times or many times repeatedly about the Four Noble Truth, so we will not be enlightened and we will not open our mind to the Four Noble Truth to see experientially. So then, but for the Buddha-Danda's mind, already free from mental hindrances, when the Buddha preached about the Four Noble Truth, and he could attain the Dhamma, because he has completed the preliminary condition. Then he realized whatever thing has origin must come to cessation. So this is cause and effect relationship and the nature, understanding about the natural phenomena as they really are. And this is called the spotless Dhamma. Then, as usual, he invited the Buddha and Sangha to accept his meal donation for tomorrow. Like this, in the next day, the Buddha and Sangha visited to the Brahmin Buddha-Danda's donation. Then he take a bond. He take the not only for himself. With his family, he served the Buddha and Sangha by meal. Then the Buddha preached again. Finally, the Buddha departed. So in this case, we can conclude that the Brahmin Buddha-Danda, at the beginning, he has provided the great sacrifice, what he said, the great sacrifice, but it is in wrong way. Then by the arrival of the Buddha, he has learned how to make the great sacrifice in accordance with the Dhamma. Then paying attention and following that, and he has a question to learn about the better sacrifice. Then he asked question, and by answering his question, the Buddha mentioned the greatest sacrifice, better sacrifice one another. Then finally, listening to the Buddha, and he could attain the Dhamma. It refers to the attainment of the stages of enlightenment. After that, and he can see, because he cannot keep his own nature after the attainment of Dhamma, and he will not be reborn in the whole state. So this is a great achievement, encountering the wise person like the Buddha. So now also through the learning, the test, so we still can learn the Buddha's teaching if we follow the principle of the teaching and fulfill the requirement for the enlightenment. We still can attain the enlightenment. I hope all of you can make the better sacrifice in your life and promote yourself until you attain the enlightenment stage. Thank you very much for your attention. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.